unique situation where the popular vote is being given to them for the referendum on same-sex marriage, where other places like in the US, Massachusetts, it was the elected officials who made the decision. It wasn't the popular vote necessarily. So I think that's kind of a unique position for Ireland at this point.
Well, I know that Ireland is the first country to actually put the whole question of marriage equality to a public vote. Other countries such as England have brought it in through legislation. But I think while I personally might question whether it was necessary or not to do it in this way, but as it happens, it's probably a good thing. Well, yeah, I think the question of family and children has been brought into the referendum. At this stage, it's on everybody's mind. It's hard to separate the two. It doesn't say in that clause in the Constitution anything about children. It's solely just about marriage between two consenting adults. So it is unfortunate, but we've gone down that road now, and you know, you have to debate on that basis. I think what's particularly damaging is some of the posters from the no side that talk about surrogacy and talk about the right of a child to have both a mother and a father. I find it personally offensive. I know lots of other people that do also.
When you grant the right to marry, you also grant the right to found a family, and that's clear in our Constitution. That's the heading on which of the article we're trying to change. But two men, for example, can't found a family on their own. They need egg donation and surrogacy, for example. And these are highly problematic, I think, in many people's eyes. And if we have same-sex marriage, it will be very difficult to ban surrogacy, for example, which Germany and Italy have done, because you have the right to found a family that comes with the right to marry. And to vindicate that must involve surrogacy for, let's say, two men.
And when you're talking about marriage, you are talking about starting a family. Sex education will change, because it will no longer be the ideal model of a mother and father. It will be teaching kids that a mother and a father are on equal par. And there's 7-year-olds in Massachusetts being read the book King and King, about a fairy tale about two kings meeting each other, or Heather Has Two Mummies.
I think similarly to the question of children, it's hard to keep the church out of this. It shouldn't, you know, the church has a right to comment and a right to preach to its own flock, whichever church, with the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church. But this is a question of civil marriage, and it's a question of somebody's right to be married in the eyes of the state and not the church. I don't have a religion, I'm an atheist, so I don't ask any church to marry me or to recognise my marriage or my civil partnership or my relationship. I respect their right to have their own laws, but those laws should only extend to the people within that church. What I want is to be married in the eyes of the state.
I think the church has a challenge in that if they speak out, they're considered to be a bigot. And if they don't speak out, then they're considered to be silent. So they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't about this campaign. So they've kind of been on the fence about speaking or not speaking. And when I say the church, you could say all of Protestantism and Catholics, you know,
and
evangelicals, the Muslims have been kind of the same in that they don't feel it's their place. At least one of my friends that I know who's a Muslim doesn't feel it's their place to step up and say something because they're a minority here.
The government seems to be presuming on a yes vote and saying it's the only way to vote. That seems to be far more coercive and manipulative than anything the Catholic Church has been doing, which is actually trying to provide as much material to make up a fully informed conscience decision on that. I think even the way the media have portrayed the whole approach to the debate has been very constrained. You know, you've seen interviews with people on television, for example, Brian Dobson asking David Quinn, so you're against marriage equality? Asking that straight out. Now, that's very, it's kind of a conversational bullying in my view.
We watched the debate last night on the Late Late Show, and I think the response to that debate, both on the show and afterwards online on social media, was very good. The debate itself was very good. The speakers for the yes side were excellent. And to me, and maybe it's just a personal view, I felt that it was a real turning point think it gave me more hope, and I think other people responded quite well.
I think gay rights is and marriage equality is certainly a human right, and it's a civil right now.
You can equate it with the civil rights movement in the States, you certainly can. I don't know that anyone has the right to get married as a human right, but if you give it to one group in society and deny another group, then that becomes a human rights issue. When people say, oh, you have civil partnership already, or you've got all the legal rights that a married couple have, and it is the same as saying to Rosa Parks, but you could have a seat on the bus, just a different part, or yeah, you could come into the diner but just through a different door, and I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. And I think a lot of Irish people can acknowledge that now, that yes, civil partnership was okay as a stepping point, but it's just not good enough. You're saying to somebody that, yeah, you're like us, but you're still a little bit different.
There's a lot of critical acceptance of this issue as being a civil rights issue, but I should say that a person's citizenhood is there independent of what type of relationship you're recognised to be in. As a civil rights issue, insofar there's been no vindication of same-sex marriage as a civil right. The civil rights are involved as the right of a child, as far as I can see, and you know, there's all sorts of slogans, mainly it seems to me from the yes side, you know, diversity. But again, these are not examined too critically. From the point of view of a child, it's maximal diversity to have a mother and father. I mean, why would you impose, let's say if you believe that, well, a mother or two mothers are just as good as a man and woman raising a child, there are many who would believe that, but why would you impose that view on a child? Let them make up their own mind, give them one of each.
I have an older sister, she's 2 years older than me, and we grew up in the same household. We've very similar, I think, outlooks on life and aspirations and hopes and dreams, and she is fully entitled to get married. She's married, I think, over 10 years now, very happily married, and she has the right to legally marry, and I don't, and I just find that very difficult to, I suppose, accept. I find it difficult to see why two people who've grown up in the same house, same beliefs and that, can be treated differently by law. Just struggle with that.
And it's fair to say that it's just under the law, that your parents treat you both exactly the same and see you as equal and love you equally. And when we had our civil partnership, they treated it just the same as they did Amanda's wedding.
That's true. And our cats are just like their grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I think this referendum, if a yes vote is passed, it severely undermines the rights of a child.
I would say if you want this referendum to pass, then you probably want the society as a whole to change, and that will mean changes in education and sex education in schools. It will mean changes to our family law and to divorce law and custody cases, and tying up with the courts with more legislation. And it will also mean a change in perspective on how people run their businesses and what they can say freely in society. But the society as a large is going to change across the board. And do you want that? Yes or no? Do you want to stay how it is now?
On the 23rd of May, when the result is out, one of two things are going to happen. Imagine it's a yes vote, and all that negativity just fades away, and it does feel like this lovely warm hug that the whole country is there for you and they're backing you and they're on your side. And imagine how good that would feel as a gay person. And that's all we're asking. We're just asking to be the same, to be treated equally.
I think it's important as well to stress to people, I guess, not to be complacent, even if they feel it doesn't affect them directly. To just, I think a yes vote is a yes to happiness and a yes to love.